Admiral Jenna Walsh stood at the viewport of the Earth's diplomatic vessel Genesis, watching the crystalline spires of the Galactic Council headquarters glitter against the purple sky of Centauri Prime. After decades of searching the stars, humanity had finally made contact with an advanced civilization. The Nexari, with their translucent skin and floating movements, had seemed welcoming at first. "They're ready for us, Admiral," reported Captain Marcus Rodriguez, his dark eyes reflecting concern. The past 3 months of negotiations had left everyone on edge. "Very well," Walsh straightened her uniform. "Let's hear their decision." The council chamber was a vast amphitheater carved from living crystal. 7 Nexari High Counselors floated on their gravity platforms, looking down at the human delegation with what Walsh had learned to recognize as disdain. High Counselor Zirith, their membrane-like skin rippling with bioluminescent patterns, spoke first. "We have reviewed Earth's petition for technological exchange and mutual defense." Their translator rendered the musical language into flat English. "The Council finds your species inadequate." Walsh felt her jaw tighten. "Inadequate? We've demonstrated our technological achievements, our cultural wealth." "Primitive achievements," interrupted Counselor Nirath. "Your fastest ships barely reach light speed. Your weapon systems are centuries behind the galactic standard. You would be a burden, not an asset. We offer innovation, different perspectives." Rodriguez began, but was silenced by a gesture from Zirith. "The Council's decision is final. Furthermore, we have determined that humanity's aggressive expansion poses a potential threat to galactic stability. Therefore, we are establishing a quarantine zone around your solar system. Any human vessels attempting to leave will be destroyed." The chamber erupted in protests from the Earth delegation, but Walsh remained silent, studying the counselors' smug expressions. They didn't see humans as equals. They saw them as animals to be caged. "This meeting is concluded," Zirith announced. "You have 6 hours to leave Centauri space." Back aboard the Genesis, Walsh gathered her senior staff. "They're making a mistake," she said quietly. "They think they're containing a primitive species. They don't understand what they've done." Rodriguez nodded grimly. "The quarantine will cripple our colonies on Mars and Europa. Our entire civilization will be trapped in one system." "No," Walsh's eyes hardened. "They've just given humanity something we've always excelled at, a problem to solve, and an enemy to unite against. Send encrypted transmissions to Earth Command. Tell them everything. And," she paused, "activate Project Prometheus." "The prototype," Rodriguez whispered, "but it's untested. Now they'll never see it coming." Walsh smiled grimly. "They think they're caging animals, Captain. Let them think that. While they're busy guarding their quarantine zone, they won't notice what we're building in the shadows of our primitive system." As the Genesis broke orbit, Walsh watched the Council spires recede. The Nexari's arrogance would be their downfall. They'd forgotten the most important lesson about humanity. When backed into a corner, humans didn't submit. They evolved. And in the depths of secret facilities across the solar system, engineers and scientists were already working on technologies that would make the Nexari's advanced civilization look primitive in comparison. The quarantine wasn't a cage. It was an incubator. "Set course for Earth," Walsh commanded. "We have work to do." Deep within the asteroid belt, hidden in the hollow core of Ceres, Director Raven Blackwood surveyed the massive construction bay before her. 5 years had passed since the Nexari quarantine, and humanity had not been idle. "Status report on the Shadowblade-class vessels," she commanded, her cybernetic eye scanning the holographic readouts floating before her. Chief Engineer Dante Patul stepped forward, his prosthetic hands manipulating the data streams. "The quantum drive cores are exceeding expectations. We've achieved faster-than-light travel without leaving a detectable signature. The Nexari won't see us coming." The construction bay housed 12 ships, each darker than the void itself. They were built with technology that shouldn't exist, at least according to the Nexari's understanding of human capabilities. The ships incorporated crystalline computing, gravitic weapons, and stealth systems that bent both light and space around their hulls. "And the Prometheus prototype?" Raven asked, turning to Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of weapons development. Yuki's fingers danced across her tablet. "The reality phase cannon is stable. When fired, it temporarily shifts its target into a parallel dimension where the laws of physics are different. The results are devastating." Raven nodded, remembering Admiral Walsh's words from 5 years ago. The quarantine had indeed become an incubator, forcing humanity to develop technologies that would have taken centuries under normal circumstances. Desperation bred innovation. Director. A voice called from the communication station. Lieutenant Omar Hassan's face was grim. We're receiving reports from our deep space probes. The Nexari aren't just maintaining the quarantine anymore. They're preparing an invasion fleet. Of course they are. Raven's smile was cold. They've realized their mistake. They gave us time to prepare. And now they're afraid of what we've become. She turned to face her team. The Nexari thought they were dealing with primitives. They expected us to accept their quarantine, to stagnate and decay within our solar system. Instead, we've built something they couldn't imagine. The holograms shifted, showing the full scope of humanity's hidden fleet. Not just the 12 Shadow Blade vessels, but hundreds of smaller ships, automated defense platforms, and weapons that defied conventional physics. Begin final preparations, Raven ordered. The Nexari want to see what humanity is capable of. Let's show them evolution in action. In a secure chamber adjacent to the command center, Dr. Tanaka was making final adjustments to the Prometheus device. The quantum matrices hummed with power, their crystalline structure pulsing with possibilities from 1,000 parallel universes. The device is ready, she reported. But Director, the power it generates, we still don't fully understand the implications of tearing holes in reality. Sometimes the best weapons are the ones your enemy can't comprehend, Raven replied. The Nexari based their quarantine on their understanding of physics. We're about to introduce them to some new laws of nature. A signal flashed across the command screens. The Nexari invasion fleet had begun moving. 50 ships, each larger than anything humanity had built before the quarantine, were approaching the solar system. They think they're being cautious, Omar observed, bringing overwhelming force against a primitive species. They're bringing knives to a reality war, Dad added with a grim chuckle. Raven activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, prepare for Phase 1. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. The Nexari thought they could cage humanity. It's time to show them why that was a mistake. As the hidden fleet powered up their systems, Raven thought about the long path that had led to this moment. The Nexari's arrogance had forced humanity to evolve faster than anyone thought possible. Now, that evolution was about to be unleashed. All ships, commence launch sequence, she commanded. Let's remind the galaxy why you should never corner a species that thrives on overcoming impossible odds. The bay doors began to open, revealing the star-filled void beyond. Humanity's hidden fleet was about to emerge from its chrysalis, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first shot of the war wasn't fired by a weapon. It was a breach in reality itself. Commander Nadia Santos watched from the bridge of the Shadowblade vessel Nemesis as the Prometheus device activated. Space itself seemed to shudder, and a hole opened in the fabric of the universe directly in the path of the approaching Nexari fleet. Reality breach stable, reported Science Officer Jin Park, his augmented eyes tracking multiple dimensional readings simultaneously. The laws of physics in the breach are completely alien to our universe. The lead Nexari vessels, massive crystalline structures that dwarfed humanity's ships, suddenly found themselves in a region of space where their technology simply stopped working. Their shields, designed to operate under normal physical laws, were useless against forces that shouldn't exist. First blood, Nadia whispered as 3 Nexari capital ships were torn apart by gravitational forces that operated on principles their science had never conceived. Launched the second phase. The hidden fleet emerged from its stealth positions, quantum drives humming with power that bent both space and probability. The Nexari's formations broke as they faced weapons they couldn't detect, couldn't shield against, and couldn't understand. They're trying to adapt, Jin reported, monitoring the enemy's responses. Their ships are attempting to reconfigure their shields to match the new physics we've introduced. Too late, Nadia replied. Execute containment protocol. From the Nemesis and its sister ships, waves of quantum-locked particles spread out across space, creating bubbles where reality itself became negotiable. Inside these zones, humanity's ships moved with impossible grace, their weapons operating on principles that the Nexari sensors couldn't even detect. On the Nexari command ship, High Counselor Zirith watched in horror as their fleet was systematically dismantled by forces that defied their understanding of the universe. Impossible, they whispered. They were primitives. A transmission cut through their communications, displaying Commander Santos's face on their bridge. You made two mistakes, Counselor, she said calmly. First, you assumed that trapping us in our solar system would weaken us. Instead, you gave us a laboratory where we could experiment without your interference. The Nemesis phased through a Nexari battlecruiser, leaving reality-warped wreckage in its wake. Your second mistake. You forgot that humans have spent their entire history breaking out of cages. We don't just adapt. We transform the very rules that bind us. Fall back. Zirith commanded their fleet, full retreat to. But there was nowhere to retreat to. The quantum nets had already closed, trapping the Nexari fleet in pockets of altered spacetime. Their faster-than-light drives, designed for normal space, were worse than useless in these reality-warped zones. Status report, Nadia commanded as the battle reached its crescendo. 37 enemy capital ships destroyed or disabled, Jin reported. The remaining 13 are trapped in quantum containment. Their weapons and drives are inoperable under the new physical laws we've imposed. Nadia opened a channel to all surviving Nexari vessels. Your quarantine forced us to look inward, to push the boundaries of what we thought was possible. You wanted to contain us. Congratulations, you just created something far more dangerous than the primitive species you feared. The surviving Nexari ships hung helpless in space, their once mighty technology rendered obsolete by humanity's quantum revolution. The chains meant to bind humanity had become the forge that transformed them into something the galaxy had never seen before. Signal the fleet, Nadia ordered. Begin Phase 3. It's time to show the Nexari Council what evolution really looks like. The crystalline spires of Centauri Prime look different now. No longer symbols of oppression, but fragile towers awaiting their fate. Admiral Walsh stood on the bridge of the Genesis, now transformed with humanity's quantum technology, as the combined fleet emerged from reality-warped space. Multiple defense platforms detected. First Officer Rodriguez reported, his neural interface processing tactical data. They're activating their primary weapons. Let them, Walsh replied. The Nexari's defensive grid, once considered impenetrable, now seemed as obsolete as wooden fortifications against nuclear weapons. Deploy the phase shields. Reality rippled around the human fleet as the Prometheus-derived technology activated. The Nexari's energy weapons passed through their targets harmlessly, their beams diverted into parallel dimensions where they could do no harm. Director Blackwood's voice came through the quantum-encrypted channel. Ground teams are in position, Admiral. The Council chamber is surrounded. The battle for Centauri Prime wasn't fought with traditional weapons. Instead, humanity deployed devices that selectively altered the fundamental constants of physics within specific zones. Nexari technology, dependent on precise scientific principles, simply ceased to function. Curious, isn't it? Walsh transmitted to the Council chamber. How quickly the mighty fall when their basic assumptions about reality prove false. High Counselor Zirith's response crackled with static. You violated every law of physics, every principle of civilized warfare. We violated the laws you knew, Walsh corrected. We wrote new ones. That's what happens when you cage a species that thrives on innovation. The ground assault was methodical. Human soldiers, equipped with quantum phase armor, walked through solid walls. Their weapons didn't destroy targets. They rewrote the local laws of probability, causing Nexari defense systems to fail in ways that should have been statistically impossible. The Council chamber is secured, Blackwood reported. All 7 High Counselors are in custody. Their personal shields proved inadequate against our reality manipulation fields. Walsh descended to the surface, walking through the same chamber where humanity had been judged inadequate years before. The counselors, their translucent forms now dulled with fear, watched her approach. Your quarantine forced us to experiment with the fundamentals of existence, Walsh explained, her voice echoing in the vast space. We couldn't expand outward, so we expanded inward, into the quantum realm, into parallel dimensions, into the very fabric of reality. What do you want? Zirith asked, their once musical voice now harsh with defeat. A new council, Walsh replied. One that understands that evolution doesn't follow a single path. One that recognizes that true advancement comes from diversity, not conformity. and one that never forgets the lesson you're learning today. Never cage something you don't fully understand. The quantum fleet hung in Centauri Prime's purple sky, a testament to humanity's transformation. They had entered this war as prisoners in their own solar system. They would end it as architects of a new physical reality. Prepare for transition, Walsh commanded. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has become, not through conquest, but through the very evolution you feared. As the sun set on Centauri Prime, the old order was already crumbling. The species once deemed primitive had not just broken their chains, they had rewritten the very laws that made those chains possible. 1 year after the fall of the Galactic Council, the galaxy gathered to witness something unprecedented. The great chamber that once housed the old council had been transformed. Instead of floating platforms arranged in hierarchy, representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in a circular forum where all were equal. Dr. Tanaka stood at the center, presenting humanity's gift to the gathered species. The Prometheus Protocol isn't just a weapon, she explained, her holographic displays showing the quantum mathematics that had revolutionized their understanding of reality. It's a key to unlock the universe's full potential. The assembled delegates watched in awe as she demonstrated how humanity's breakthroughs could be adapted for peaceful purposes. Reality manipulation fields that once disabled warships now powered clean energy reactors. Quantum phase technology that penetrated barriers now facilitated instantaneous transportation between worlds. We didn't develop these technologies to conquer, Director Blackwood addressed the forum. We developed them to survive. Now we offer them freely, with one condition: that the mistakes of the past never be repeated. From her position as head of the new Galactic Cooperation Council, Admiral Walsh observed the proceedings with satisfaction. The quantum networks linking the member worlds pulsed with possibility, carrying not just data but fragments of altered reality that made faster-than-light communication instantaneous. The quarantine forced us to question everything. We thought we knew about physics, she told the assembly. But the real breakthrough wasn't scientific, it was philosophical. We learned that true advancement comes not from isolation, but from cooperation between different perspectives. The former Nexari worlds, now free from their rigid hierarchy, had embraced humanity's innovations with surprising enthusiasm. Their crystalline cities now shimmered with quantum fields that bent light and probability in beautiful, impossible ways. Commander Santos, leading the new Joint Exploration Fleet, reported discoveries that would have been impossible under the old regime. By combining different species' perspectives on reality itself, we're finding phenomena that none of us could have understood alone. As the session concluded, Walsh stood with the former High Counselor Zirith, watching ships from 100 worlds moving through the quantum-altered space around Centauri Prime. We were wrong about your species, Zirith admitted, their bioluminescence patterns showing humility. We saw your differences as weakness, not realizing they were the source of your strength. The universe is vast, Walsh replied, and reality itself has more layers than any one species can comprehend alone. The future belongs not to those who try to control evolution, but to those who embrace its infinite possibilities. Above them, the quantum fleet prepared for its next mission, not to wage war or enforce quarantines, but to explore the deepest mysteries of existence. Humanity had evolved beyond their chains, and in doing so, they had helped the galaxy evolve as well. The age of isolation was over. The age of infinite possibility had begun.